Today we are here for the Vicinto lecture and the launch of the book Nature and Mindful Awareness study book titled Nature, Health and Happiness. The book is a collaborative effort of both Professor Kua, Dr. Jade, Mr. Sui, Professor Vincent Chong, Angelia, and many writers who actually contributed to the book in its publication. And this is a testimony of the close collaboration between NPark, many of our MindScience Center's research scientists, colleagues, as well as many people who are interested in nature and health and mental wellness. Without further ado, I would like to invite Professor Kua Ee Hiok, the Tan Yeok In Professor in Psychiatry and Neuroscience, to deliver the Vicinto lecture this morning entitled Ecology of Resilience, Faith, Love at the Time of COVID-19. Professor Kua, please.
The patron of the NUS MindScience Center, Mrs. Teo Po Im, the chairman of the National University Health System, Mr. Sia Fu Hua, the chairman of the MindScience Center, Dr. C.K. Cheong, our former Speaker of Parliament, Mr. Abdullah Tamuji, friends and colleagues. Many of our friends are watching the comfort of your home in this webinar, and there are many around the island and also outside of Singapore. I know that a few friends from Beijing, Penang, KL, Ipoh, and Batu Pahat, and as far south as Sydney and Melbourne are watching this webinar. It is a beautiful day here in the Hort Park. And the topic of my lecture is the ecology of resilience. And this lecture is dedicated to the memory of a dear friend, the late Mr. Vicinto, who was the founding chairman of the MindScience Center, a former NUS vice president, and the first person to introduce mindfulness to the NUS students. He was always a strong supporter of the therapeutic garden. Last year, the former director of mental health from the World Health, Professor Norman Sartorius, came to Singapore to deliver the first Tao Tien Seng lecture, and the topic was on mental resilience. And he defined resilience in two categories. First, the resilience of the individual, and secondly, the resilience of the community. And the resilience of the individual is an individual's ability to adapt in the face of adverse condition. And the resilience of the community is the ability of a system to withstand change in its environment and still function. So it is now we're in the midst of the pandemic. Can we still remain resilient? I certainly think we can. And we are very fortunate here in Singapore that there is a mental resilience program for our seniors. And this program is called the Age Well Everyday program. And this program was started at Jurong, and there's tremendous research done, and the evidence-based, and the papers are published in the World's Journal, including The Lancet. And there are three important elements of this program. One, health education, understanding what is diabetes, hypertension. Secondly, exercise. And thirdly, mindfulness. There are now about 8 centers around Singapore with this program, and each of the centers have their other activities, including art, music, and gardening. And the study on gardening was conducted here at the Hort Park. And it's a big study, and important finding of this study was that gardening can improve our immune system. And this has been published in the World's Journal, and 3 months ago we were invited by the BBC in London to give an interview on our research finding. Having done the first study and here in the Hort Park, national parks introduced the therapeutic garden. And we are so glad that now, besides one, there are more than 5 therapeutic gardens around the island. And so this picture is, you can see a very energetic Minister Desmond Lee with Minister Gan Kim Yong at the Bishan Park. The next area of research, a new frontier of research that we're in is the therapeutic forests. This idea came about after a discussion, a lunch discussion with the chairman of NParks, Benny Lim, and our former Speaker of Parliament, Abdul Tambuji. It was over a delicious curry fish head lunch at Dempsey Road. And an idea germinated that maybe we should do a study on the forests. So the proposal was that we invite 20 friends to walk through the rainforest of the Botanic Gardens and find out what happened to them after 10 weeks. 10 consecutive weeks on a Saturday morning at 7 o'clock. Will it change your health? We're not too sure, but we started this study. There are many other studies in the world on the forests. In Japan, they call it forest bathing. In America, forest therapy. But what is so unique and what's so special about the Singapore study are 3 elements. Firstly, there is mindful walking. And this is where the late Mr. Wee Sin Toh and his wife, Gyok Hua, taught us how to walk mindfully through the rainforest. Often we walk through the forest without understanding or knowing the trees around us. And this is where NParks help us out. We have 2 friends, Mr. Maxwell and Paul, will accompany us, and they'll tell us that is the Julongtong tree, that is the Meranti tree, and they'll tell us about the medicinal value of these trees. This is very important because often, even as you drive along the roads in Singapore, which are lined with beautiful trees, we don't know what's the name of the trees. And I'm told that in the Botanic Gardens, there are more than 1,500 species of plants and 400 species of birds. And this is phenomenal in the forest to learn. And after 2 hours of walking, they adjourn to their favorite watering hole, having coffee or tea. And there is no idle talk. Every week there's a focused topic. 1 week maybe on diet, another week on diabetes, the 3rd week on hypertension, falls, how to sleep better. So this went on for 10 weeks. After 10 weeks, what happened? I assessed them at 3 levels: the physical health, the mental health, and the social health. So this is a small study, it's a qualitative study. I compare this group with a group in Chinatown, which I examined several years ago. This is the biggest study, the first study in Singapore on dementia amongst the old people at Chinatown, a sample size of 612. This is both a quantitative and a qualitative study. So you see that obviously there's a difference. The NAMA study, the Nature and Mindful Awareness study, mainly middle class people, whereas the Chinatown study, mainly the working class people. But why is it important? Because every time I present the Singapore data in a world conference, someone from the World Health will say, those data are of the working class in Singapore, from Toa Payoh, Jurong, or Ang Mo Kio. The world, even from China, India, Europe, or North America, they don't have the data of the middle class people. And the World Health tell all of us that the middle class in China has ballooned. More than 56 million people belong to the middle class, even in India. But not many people know about the health services or the health consumption. But we know in all these countries, the health service consumption is highest among the middle class. So we see that in this group here, for musculoskeletal discomfort or pain, they have aches, pain, muscle strains. Among the NAMAS group, which is Nature and Mindful Awareness group, 30%, the Chinatown 12%. Why is that so? Most of the people here, the middle class people, they are more living, having sedentary job. They are senior government official, there's senior civil servants, doctors, professors, even bankers, more sedentary jobs, so they have more of this discomfort compared to this group. And so many of these people who are middle class, whenever I ask them, you have a back problem, what do you do? They say, well, I see my doctor. I will probably ask for an MRI scan of my spinal column, which is quite costly. But what about the people here when I interviewed them, the Chinatown elderly? Well, if I have back pain, I'll just go to the local traditional Chinese shop. I'll ask for they'll sell me a tube of a tiger balm. I'll just rub it down. I will not ask for an MRI scan. It's too expensive. And you see also the prevalence of hypertension, diabetes higher amongst the middle class. But what happened after 10 weeks? The prevalence of musculoskeletal discomfort came to just 10%, and all of them with hypertension, diabetes were well controlled. For mental health, I used a questionnaire used by the World Health Organization, the General Health Questionnaire. If you score more than 4 points on the GHQ, you have a mental health problem, commonly depression or anxiety. But here in this study, 80% have just 1 or 2 points. All of them are normal, and their symptoms are mainly of sleep difficulty or sometimes a bit of anxiety. And only one person has a score of 3 points. What happened after 10 weeks? This number came down to just 30%, and the person with 3 points came to just 1 point. And none of them have any evidence of any cognitive decline. What happened to their social health? Right, in the beginning of the study, they don't know each other, most of them. But now they're able to have more social connectivity, and in the midst of the pandemic now, they begin to care for one another. There are few people in this group who are widows or widowers, and the more able-bodied one will volunteer to buy the mask for them, buy groceries for them, or even take medicine for them to the hospitals. And their sense of gratitude because they decided to form a virtual choir and to thank our healthcare workers. I think that's quite tremendous for them. And also at the end of the 10-week walk, they thought that since the national parks have been so kind to them, Mr. Wee Sin-to said we should thank them with a donation. So he passed the hat around for a donation, and we gave a donation to the national parks. And the national park agreed that we should plant 30 medicinal trees here in a hot park. I think that's tremendous. I think the collaboration between national parks and the Mind Science Center. Someone asked me, what is the benefit of this study? What is the benefit of this study to the community? There are two very important benefits: building social capital and mental capital. Social capital and mental capital are important in the ecology of resilience in the community. Social capital meaning that you know your friends, there's a social cohesion, they'll take care of you. Mental capital, now, although the mean age of this group is 68 years old, 80% of them are working part-time or full-time. This is a very important fact because in Singapore there is a popular misconception that people above 65 are retired and not economically productive. They are a burden to society. Far from it. 80% are still working part-time or full-time and contributing to the economy. And this is a very important fact in the ecology of resilience. Several years ago, I was invited by the Indonesian government to help out in the tsunami when it struck Aceh. And the doctors in Aceh told me that not all the shorelines down there are destroyed by the tidal wave. Certain parts of the shorelines were well preserved because of the mangrove trees. The mangrove trees have deep roots that protects the shoreline from the tsunami. And they also told me that in Sumatra and Java, they frequently have earthquakes. And the earthquakes could topple tall buildings, but they will not knock down the tall trees in the rainforest. There's something about the rainforest. The trees have deep roots, and the roots are all cling together, and they're able to withstand the tidal wave. This is a very important metaphor for society on ecology of resilience. If society are linked together, the strong cohesion, then it's likely to crumble under calamity. I love to go to the National Art Gallery, And I'm so glad that Chairman, Mr. Siafu Hua, is here. And in the art gallery, there's a room for children to paint. It's called the Keppel Art Room. And I'll bring my grandchildren there to do some painting, and they do a painting of trees, and you see the trees are all linked together. The roots are all linked together. But what actually holds a society, holds a community together? I think there are three important elements, and these are faith, hope, and love. Faith meaning trust in your family, your neighbors, your friends, and also trust in the frontline workers, and trust in the authorities. And this will stir up a sense of hope and love or compassion. The book will be launched in a few minutes' time, and in the book there's a line that says, "We never actually own the rainforest. We merely look after it for the next generation." I want to thank the NParks for helping us with this research, this study. Mr. William Hunstead is a retired American senator living here in Singapore, and for the last 30 years, his children are all grown up, all in the medical profession, and he wants to thank Singapore and they gave us a donation for this study. And also I will thank the NParks who are volunteers, and also the Mind Science Center. I presented this idea in a world conference 2 years ago in Mexico City. The chairman of the conference was a professor from Brazil. He told me this is a marvelous idea because he said that one of the causes of global warming is the destruction of the rainforest. And if people begin to love the rainforest and they will not want to burn it down, then it's wonderful for the world. He told us that in Brazil, the Amazon rainforest is 10,000 times the size of Singapore. People are destroying it. If we can do something for the forest, that would be wonderful. NAMAS is a small step in the ecology of resilience in Singapore, and if it is adopted by more countries around the world, it can be a giant step for humanity. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Hua, for that speech. I would now like to invite Mrs. Teo Po Yin for the book launch of Nature, Health, and Happiness.
Good morning, and a special welcome to our Minister, Minister Desmond Lee, and all our friends, colleagues, and everyone in Singapore. Welcome. What we're going to do today is to have this book launch, which Professor Kwa Yi Hyok has already given a very interesting and fascinating synopsis. So,
All right, are you
ready?
ready?
Yes.
We're going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then you're going to press this.
This one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them blue
for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue
And clouds of white.
the bright present day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky,
Also on the faces of people going by.
I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They'll only say,
I love you. Smile though your heart is aching. Smile
Those are our stars. Lovely singing. Due to urbanization, a lot of people have moved away into the cities. They have lost touch of nature. Many studies have shown that living near greenery helps to lead a longer, healthier, and happier life. So we are very fortunate in Singapore, and thanks to NParks, they have been doing a wonderful job in continuing to create a garden for all of us to enjoy in our backyard. More green corridors, parks, and the passion that they have shown in building the diversity of flora and fauna all around us. So we are indeed very, very fortunate. In the Nature and Mindfulness Awareness study, the findings showed that mindful walking can make a difference, and it can enhance well-being and mental resilience. So we are, again, with these positive findings, what are we going to do about it? We're going to bring it to the community, and we're going to make it happen. Bring the benefits of mental resilience to the people. And that will happen in the 7 NUS Mind Science Center Age Well program in Singapore, across the whole of the island. Finally, what is most important is let us continue to protect our rainforest, because that's important for us to take care of them for the next generation. It is now with great pleasure that we invite our very passionate and nature-loving minister to receive the book.